road trip. Mysterious hitchhiker and ghostly child narrated by content matron. The sun hung low on the horizon as I gripped the steering wheel, embarking on a cross-country road trip like no other. The open road stretched before me, a ribbon of asphalt that promised adventure, excitement, and a break from the mundane. With the windows down and the wind in my hair, I felt a sense of freedom that only a road trip could provide. My destination was a remote cabin nestled deep within the woods, a haven of solitude and tranquility. It was a place my family had owned for generations, a retreat from the chaos of everyday life. As I drove further away from civilization, the scenery shifted from bustling cityscapes to rolling hills and dense forests. The road became narrower, flanked by towering trees that cast eerie shadows as the sun dipped below the horizon, and the radio crackled to life, playing a haunting melody that seemed to resonate with the desolate landscape around me. Goosebumps prickled my skin as the chilling notes filled the car, sending shivers down my spine. I shook off the unease, attributing it to the atmosphere of the wilderness. But as the minutes turned to hours, a sense of unease settled in the pit of my stomach. I had been driving for what felt like an eternity when I noticed a figure standing on the side of the road up ahead. A hitchhiker, perhaps? I hesitated, my foot hovering over the brake pedal. The person's silhouette was obscured by the dim light, but I could make out the tattered clothing and unkempt hair against my better judgment. I pulled over. I need a lift. I called out as I rolled down the window. The figure turned slowly, revealing a face shrouded in darkness. Hollow eyes met mine, sending a chill down my spine. Heading to the cabin, the voice was a whisper, barely audible over the rustling leaves, and my heart raced as I nodded, unsure of how the stranger knew my destination. Without another word, the hitchhiker climbed into the back seat. The air inside the car grew colder, and an overwhelming sense of dread washed over me. The radio crackled again, this time emitting a static-filled whisper that seemed to say, "Turn back." I dismissed the warning as a figment of my imagination and focused on the road ahead. The hitchhiker remained silent, his presence an unsettling weight in the car. The winding road grew narrower, the forest closing in around us. My grip on the steering wheel tightened as a dense fog rolled in, obscuring the path ahead. I strained my eyes to see through the mist, my heart pounding in my chest. Suddenly, a figure darted across the road, forcing me to slam on the brakes. My breath caught in my throat as I realized it was a child, a pale and ghostly apparition. I leaped out of the car, my heart in my throat, but the child had vanished into thin air. Did you see that? I turned to the hitchhiker, who sat motionless in the back seat. He turned to me, his eyes empty voids. "They're watching," he whispered, his voice sending a shiver down my spine. Ignoring the warning, I climbed back into the car, my hands trembling. The road seemed to stretch on forever, an endless loop of fog and trees. Panic clawed at the edges of my mind as I struggled to maintain my composure. Hours blurred into eternity as I continued to drive, the hitchhiker's presence an unrelenting reminder of the darkness that had enveloped us. Finally, the trees began to thin, and the cabin came into view. Relief flooded over me as I pulled into the driveway, the weight of the journey finally lifting from my shoulders. I turned to the hitchhiker, ready to bid him farewell, but he had vanished, leaving behind an empty seat. A sense of foreboding settled over me, as I stepped out of the car, the cabin's welcoming lights a stark contrast to the darkness that had plagued the journey. The cabin was warm and inviting, a stark contrast to the chilling landscape outside. As I settled in for the night, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that unseen eyes followed my every move. The radio crackled to life once more, emitting a sinister laugh that echoed through the cabin. Terrified, I scrambled to turn off the radio, but the laughter persisted, growing louder and more deranged. It filled the air, drowning out all other sound, until I couldn't bear it any longer. With a scream, I ripped the radio from the wall, silencing the haunting laughter. The cabin was no longer a sanctuary. Shadows danced along the walls, and a cold breeze swept through the room. Whispers filled the air, faint at first but growing steadily louder. The voices seemed to come from every direction, their words incomprehensible yet filled with a sense of urgency. I huddled in a corner, my heart racing as the room seemed to close in around me. The walls pulsed with a malevolent energy, and a sense of dread gripped me like a vice. The cabin had become a prison, a nightmare from which I couldn't escape. As the hours stretched on, the whispers grew louder, their cacophony driving me to the brink of madness. I covered my ears, desperate to block out the relentless voices. But amid the chaos, one voice stood out, clear and chilling. "They warned you," it hissed, the words a venomous reminder of the hitchhiker's caution. Tears streamed down my face as I rocked back and forth, praying for the nightmare to end. The voices reached a deafening crescendo, a symphony of terror that threatened to consume me whole. And then, as suddenly as it had begun, the cacophony ceased. The cabin was silent, the shadows retreating to their corners. I was left trembling and broken, the remnants of the haunting highway etched into my very soul. To this day, I can't escape the memories of that fateful road trip. The cabin remains a place of darkness, a testament to the horrors that lurk just beyond the veil of reality. And when night falls and the wind howls through the trees, I can still hear the whispers, a chilling reminder of the price I paid for venturing down the haunted highway.